Send her back, Sheriff. No, Daddy. Please send her back. The sheriff can't do that. Wyatt Cole stood on his porch, arms crossed, staring at the woman beside the sheriff's horse. She was large. There was no denying it. Her faded blue dress pulled tight at the seams. Her dark hair was cut short in a way that made her look even more unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. But it wasn't just her size that made his jaw tighten. I won't have someone who set fires on my property, Wyatt said flatly. Elena Marsh flinched, but she didn't look away. She'd heard worse. She'd been called worse. Careless murderer. Can't do that. Cole, Sheriff Brennan said, getting off his horse with a tired grunt. Judge Morrison's orders. She stays here 2 weeks, helps teach the orphans, then we check again. Check what again? Whether I want someone who burned her husband alive living under my roof. Elena's breath caught, but her chin stayed level. Barely. The court hasn't proven anything, she said quietly. Wyatt's eyes looked over her, cold and not caring. The court hasn't cleared you either. The words landed like stones. Elena's hands twisted together, her knuckles white. Sheriff Brennan stepped between them, his tone getting sharper. 2 weeks. She teaches reading to the local children in your barn. Helps with light work and stays out of your way. If there's trouble, I come back. If not, she moves on. Nothing about this is simple. Then make it simple. Be a decent man for 14 days. Wyatt's glare could have split stone, but the sheriff didn't blink. Finally, Wyatt pointed toward the barn. She sleeps there. Eats after we do, and if I catch her near my daughter, you'll what? The sheriff's voice dropped. Throw a widow accused of a crime she didn't commit back into the street. Wyatt said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Elena picked up her small bag and walked toward the barn, her body heavy with tiredness and shame. She could feel Wyatt's eyes on her back, could hear the whispers that would follow her here, just like they'd followed her everywhere since the fire. Her husband's screams still woke her at night. The smell of burning wood. The way the townspeople had looked at her afterward, like she was a monster wearing a woman's skin. They said she'd been too slow to save him, too heavy to move fast enough, that she'd probably knocked over the lantern herself and couldn't run. She hadn't been charged. There wasn't enough evidence. But the accusation had been enough. Her teaching position gone. Her home sold to pay debts. Her life reduced to this. Inside the barn, the air smelled like hay and old leather. The small room in the back was little more than a storage space with a cot, a cracked mirror, and a single window. Elena set her bag down and sat on the edge of the cot, her hands trembling. A soft sound made her look up. A little girl stood in the doorway, half hidden by the frame. She couldn't have been more than 5 with dark curls and wide, serious eyes. "Hello," Elena said gently. The girl didn't respond. She just watched. "What's your name?" Silence. Elena tried a different way. "My name is Elena. I'm going to be teaching some children how to read. Do you like stories?" The little girl took one small step into the barn, then another. She stopped a few feet away, still staring. "You're the fire lady," the girl said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Elena's chest tightened. Even the children knew. "Yes." "Did you really burn your husband?" The question landed hard. Elena forced herself to meet those innocent eyes. "No, sweetheart. I didn't." "Then why do people say you did?" "Because sometimes people believe the worst about others when they don't understand what really happened." The girl tilted her head thinking, "You walked all the way from town. That's far." Elena looked up surprised. "And you're not mean." "Mean people have mean faces. You don't." For the first time in months, something warm flickered in Elena's chest. "Thank you," she whispered. The girl turned and walked back toward the house, her small footsteps fading. Elena sat alone in the dim barn and pressed her hands to her face. Just 2 weeks. She could survive 2 weeks. Outside, Wyatt watched from the porch as his daughter, Lahi, climbed the steps. She looked up at him with those serious eyes. "She's sad, Papa." "Go inside, Lahi." "But she's really sad." I could see it. Wyatt's jaw tightened inside now. Lahi obeyed, but as she passed him, she said softly, "You were mean to her." The door closed and Wyatt stood alone on the porch staring at the barn. He told himself he didn't care. Told himself this woman was a stranger, a burden, a problem that would be gone in 2 weeks. But his daughter's words lingered, small and sharp, like a splinter he couldn't pull free. The children arrived at dawn. 9 of them, ranging from age 5 to 12, most orphans from the war or children of ranch hands too busy to teach them. Elena stood in the barn's open doorway, watching them come in with curious, weary eyes. She'd set up simple benches from old crates and cleared a space near the window where light poured in. On a board propped against the wall, she'd written the alphabet in careful chalk letters. "Good morning," she said softly. "My name is Miss Elena. I'm here to teach you reading, writing, and maybe a few other things along the way." A boy in the back whispered to his neighbor loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's the lady who killed her husband." Elena's hand stilled on the chalk. She turned slowly, meeting the boy's eyes. "My husband died in a fire. I did not kill him, but I understand why you might have heard that. My ma says you were too fat to save him." A girl in the front said, her tone more curious than cruel. "She says you probably couldn't run fast enough." The other children shifted uncomfortably. Elena's face burned, but she kept her voice steady. "Your mother wasn't there. Neither was anyone else, so no one knows what really happened except me." "Then what did happen?" The girl pressed. Elena set the chalk down and knelt. So, she was level with the children. Sometimes bad things happen and people want someone to blame. It makes them feel safer. But blaming someone doesn't always mean they did it. The children stared at her thinking. "So, you're innocent?" Another asked. "Yes." "Then why are you here and not at home?" Elena's throat tightened. "Because even innocent people can lose everything." The barn went quiet. The children exchanged glances and something in their faces softened. Over the next days, Elena taught them letters and numbers. But she also taught them outside under the cottonwood tree where she showed them how birds built nests and how to identify animal tracks. She answered every question, no matter how small. And Lahi was always there, silent, watchful, but always there. One afternoon, Elena was carrying water from the well when one of the ranch hands, a man named Dutch, stepped into her path. He was broad-shouldered and smirking. "Heard you're teaching the little ones," he said lazily. "That's real sweet. You teaching them how to waddle, too?" The other hands laughed. Elena's stomach twisted, but she kept walking. Dutch sidestepped, blocking her again. "I'm talking to you, sweetheart, though." "I guess sweetheart ain't the right word. Maybe sweet cake. You look like you've had plenty of those." More laughter. Elena's grip tightened on the bucket. "Excuse me. Touchy. Guess that's what happens when you're fat and a killer." Elena's hand shook. She looked him dead in the eye. "My husband burned to death while I tried to pull him out. I have scars on my hands to prove it. You want to make jokes about that?" Dutch smirk faltered. Before he could respond, a voice cut through the air like a whip. "Dutch." Wyatt stood 10 feet away, his eyes cold and flat. "Get back to work." Dutch raised his hands in mock surrender. "Just making conversation, boss." Now, Dutch walked off, muttering. Wyatt turned to Elena, his expression unreadable. "You all right?" Elena blinked, startled. "I'm fine." He looked like he wanted to say something else, but instead he just nodded and walked away. That evening, Wyatt sat on his porch, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. He could hear Elena's voice drifting from the barn, soft and steady, reading to the children who'd stayed late. Lahi was with them. She'd asked to stay after supper, something she never did. Lahi came running up the steps an hour later, her face flushed with excitement. "Papa, Miss Elena knows so many stories. She told us about a queen who fought a dragon." Wyatt managed a faint smile. "That's so. And she said, tomorrow we're going to learn about the stars." Lahi climbed into his lap, something she rarely did anymore. "I like her, Papa." Wyatt's chest tightened. "Don't get too attached, Lahi. She's only here 2 weeks." "Why?" "Because that's the deal." Lahi frowned. "That's not fair. She's nice and she's sad. Doesn't she deserve to stay somewhere she's wanted?" Wyatt had no answer. Later, after Lahi was asleep, he walked to the barn. Through the window, he saw Elena sitting on the edge of her cot, her head in her hands, shoulders shaking. She was crying, trying to muffle the sound. Wyatt stood in the shadows, something uncomfortable twisting in his chest. He thought about Dutch's words, about the way Elena had stood her ground. He thought about the scars she'd mentioned. He turned and walked back to the house, but sleep didn't come easy because for the first time since she'd arrived, he wondered if he'd been wrong about her. Lahi started following Elena everywhere. At first, it was subtle. She'd linger after lessons, helping stack books or sweep the barn floor. Then she'd appear at the well when Elena drew water, or by the garden when Elena weeded vegetables no one had asked her to tend. Elena never sent her away. She simply let the child exist beside her, asking nothing, offering quiet companionship. One afternoon, Elena found Lahi crouched by the fence, drawing in the dirt with a stick. She knelt beside her, careful not to disturb the work. "What are you making?" Lahi didn't look up. "A picture." "May I see?" Lahi nodded. The drawing was simple but clear. 2 figures holding hands, one tall, one small. "That's beautiful. Who are they?" Lahi finally looked up. "You and me." Elena's breath caught. "Why did you draw us?" "Because you make me feel safe." Lahi tilted her head like my mama used to. Elena's vision blurred. She reached out slowly, brushing a curl from Lahi's face. "Your mama must have been wonderful." "I don't remember her much. Papa says she was pretty and kind." Lahi paused. "I think you're kind, too." Elena couldn't speak. She just nodded, blinking hard. That evening, Lahi asked a question that made Elena's heart stop. "Miss Elena, why are you bigger than other ladies?" They were sitting by the creek, Lahi picking wild flowers while Elena mended a torn primer. The question came so innocently, so without malice, that Elena almost smiled. "I just am, sweetheart. People come in all shapes and sizes. Papa says you eat too much." Elena's hand stilled. "He said that not to me. I heard him talking to the sheriff." Lahi looked up, her brow furrowed. "But I don't think that's true. You barely eat anything. I've seen you give your bread to the dog." Elena's throat closed. She set down the primer and pulled Lahi into her lap. "Sometimes," she said carefully, "people say things when they're angry or scared. Your papa doesn't know me very well yet, so he says things that aren't true. Does it make you sad?" "Yes." Lahi wrapped her small arms around Elena's neck. "I'm sorry people are mean to you." Elena held her close, her tears falling silently into the child's hair. Later, Wyatt found them by the creek. Lahi had fallen asleep in Elena's lap, her head resting against Elena's shoulder while Elena hummed a soft lullaby. The last light of day filtered through the cottonwood branches. Wyatt stopped, his chest tightening. Lahi hadn't let anyone hold her like that since her mother died. Elena looked up and saw him. She went still. She fell asleep. Elena whispered, "I didn't want to wake her." Wyatt walked closer and knelt carefully, lifting Lahi into his arms. She stirred but didn't wake. "Thank you," he said quietly. Elena stood brushing dirt from her skirt. She's easy to care for. Wyatt looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time he saw past the accusations, past the size, past everything the town had said. He saw a woman who was gentle with his daughter, who taught with patience, who carried the weight of the world without breaking. "You're good with her," he said. "She's a sweet child. She hasn't smiled this much since her mother died." Elena's eyes softened. "She misses her." "I know." Wyatt shifted Lahi in his arms. "I've tried to be enough for her, but I don't know how to be both parents." "You're doing better than you think." He met her gaze, something unspoken passing between them. Then he turned and carried Lahi toward the house. Elena watched them go, her heart aching. The next day, Wyatt went into town for supplies. At the general store, he overheard two women talking. "I heard he's keeping that woman on his ranch. The fat one who killed her husband. Can you imagine? With his poor daughter there. She'll probably eat everything in sight and burn the house down." Wyatt's jaw clenched. He turned to face them. "Her name is Elena Marsh. And she didn't kill anyone." The women looked startled. "The whole town knows. The whole town knows rumors. There's a difference." "Are you defending her?" "I'm telling you to mind your business." He paid for his supplies and left, his anger simmering. That night, he found the drawing Lahi had made tucked under her pillow. He stared at it for a long time. Then he walked to the barn and knocked softly. Elena appeared, her expression cautious. "I owe you an apology," Wyatt said. Elena blinked. "For what?" "For the way I've treated you. For believing the worst without asking questions. For saying cruel things about your body when I had no right." Elena's eyes shimmered. "You were protecting your daughter." "I was protecting my anger." His voice was rough. "I lost my wife and I've been holding on to that grief like a weapon. I used it against you. That wasn't fair. I understand grief, Mr. Cole. It makes us do things we regret." "Wyatt, just Wyatt." She nodded slowly. "All right, Wyatt." He wanted to say more, but the words tangled. Instead, he just nodded and walked away. Elena stood in the doorway, her hand pressed to her heart, whispering, "Maybe the world isn't as cruel as I thought." The town council came on a Thursday. 3 men in dark suits, led by Councilman Grayson, a man whose thin smile never reached his eyes. They rode up in a black carriage, wheels crunching on gravel. Wyatt met them at the porch. "What's this about?" "We're here to speak with Miss Marsh," Grayson said smoothly. "Questions regarding the fire." The judge already cleared her to be here. The judge allowed temporary placement. "We're ensuring community safety." Grayson's smile sharpened. A woman of her size and her history teaching children in a barn full of hay. "Surely you understand our concern." Wyatt's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, Elena appeared from the barn, flanked by children who'd stayed for lessons. "I'll answer your questions," she said quietly. Grayson gestured to the open yard. "Let's speak here where everyone can hear." A crowd was forming. Ranch hands, neighbors, women from town. Elena's stomach twisted, but she walked forward. Grayson pulled out a small notebook. "Miss Marsh, on the night of the fire, where were you?" "In the kitchen, preparing supper." "And your husband in the barn repairing a wagon wheel. How convenient that you were inside while he burned." Elena's breath hitched. "It wasn't convenient. It was a nightmare. Witnesses say you couldn't have reached him in time, even if you tried. That you were too slow." A woman in the crowd called out, "Too fat, you mean?" Laughter rippled through the air. Grayson's smile widened. "Miss Marsh, isn't it true that your physical condition would have made rescue difficult?" Elena's hands trembled. "Tried, I have burns on my arms to prove it." Or perhaps those burns came from starting the fire. The crowd murmured, the sound growing uglier. Did you argue with your husband that day? Grayson pressed. No. Witnesses say they heard shouting. Then they're mistaken. So everyone's lying except you. I didn't say that. A man shouted. She's got an answer for everything. Another voice. Guilty people always do. Elena's vision blurred. She opened her mouth, but her voice caught. Then a small voice cut through the noise. Stop it. Everyone turned. Lahi stood at the edge of the crowd, her small fists clenched. Lahi, Wyatt started. You're being mean to Miss Elena. Lahi's voice cracked. She didn't hurt anyone. She's nice. She teaches us and she doesn't yell even when we make mistakes. Grayson's face hardened. Child, you don't understand. I understand you're being a bully, Lahi shouted. My mama taught me bullies are cowards. Are you a coward, Mr. Grayson? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before anyone could respond, another child stepped forward. Then another. Soon, all 9 children stood between Elena and the council. Miss Elena is good, one boy said. She's the best teacher we ever had. Why are you being so mean? Grayson's composure cracked. This is absurd. They understand kindness, Wyatt said, his voice cutting through like steel. He stepped forward. And they understand cruelty. Miss Marsh, on the night of the fire, where were you? In the kitchen, preparing supper. And your husband in the barn repairing a wagon wheel. How convenient that you were inside while he burned. Elena's breath hitched. It wasn't convenient. It was a nightmare. Witnesses say you couldn't have reached him in time, even if you tried. That you were too slow. A woman in the crowd called out, too fat, you mean? Laughter rippled through the air. Grayson's smile widened. Miss Marsh, isn't it true that your physical condition would have made rescue difficult? Elena's hands trembled. Tried, I have burns on my arms to prove it. Or perhaps those burns came from starting the fire. The crowd murmured, the sound growing uglier. Did you argue with your husband that day? Grayson pressed. No. Witnesses say they heard shouting. Then they're mistaken. So everyone's lying except you. I didn't say that. A man shouted. She's got an answer for everything. Another voice. Guilty people always do. Elena's vision blurred. She opened her mouth, but her voice caught. Then a small voice cut through the noise. Stop it. Everyone turned. Lahi stood at the edge of the crowd, her small fists clenched. Lahi, Wyatt started. You're being mean to Miss Elena. Lahi's voice cracked. She didn't hurt anyone. She's nice. She teaches us and she doesn't yell even when we make mistakes. Grayson's face hardened. Child, you don't understand. I understand you're being a bully, Lahi shouted. My mama taught me bullies are cowards. Are you a coward, Mr. Grayson? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before anyone could respond, another child stepped forward. Then another. Soon, all 9 children stood between Elena and the council. Miss Elena is good, one boy said. She's the best teacher we ever had. Why are you being so mean? Grayson's composure cracked. This is absurd. They understand kindness, Wyatt said, his voice cutting through like steel. He stepped forward. And they understand cruelty. So do I, Mr. Cole, surely you don't believe. I believe you came here to humiliate a woman who's done nothing but help. I believe you're more interested in gossip than truth. And I believe it's time for you to leave my property. Grayson's face darkened. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was letting you through my gate. Now get out. The councilmen climbed back into their carriage. As they drove away, the crowd slowly dispersed. Elena stood frozen, tears streaming. The children surrounded her, their small hands reaching for hers. Lahi pushed through and wrapped her arms around Elena's waist. "Don't cry, Miss Elena. We won't let them hurt you." Elena knelt and pulled her close. "Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you." Wyatt watched something fierce burning in his chest. He defended her, and he meant every word. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay on the cot in the barn, staring at the ceiling, her body trembling from the day's humiliation. The councilman's words echoed, the laughter, the way they'd looked at her like she was something scraped off their boots. Then she remembered Lahi's voice, the children's faces. Wyatt's defense. A soft knock startled her. "Miss Elena," Lahi whispered. "Are you awake?" Elena sat up. "Lahi, it's late. What are you doing out here?" The door creaked and Lahi slipped inside, barefoot, nightgown stained with tears. "I had a bad dream," she whispered. Elena opened her arms and Lahi climbed onto the cot, burrowing into her lap. "What did you dream about, sweetheart?" "That you left, that you went away and never came back like Mama." Elena held her tighter, tears falling silently. "I'm still here." "But what if they make you go? What if those mean men take you away?" "I heard Papa talking to the sheriff. He said, your time is almost up. A few more days." Lahi's small face was fierce. "I don't want you to go. You're not bad. You're good. I love you." Elena cupped her face in her scarred hands. "I love you too so much." "Then why do you have to leave? Sometimes rules don't care about love. That's not fair." "No, it isn't." They sat in silence. Then Lahi asked softly, "Miss Elena, were you scared when the fire happened?" Elena's breath caught. No one had asked her that. "Yes," she whispered. "I was terrified." "What did it feel like?" Elena closed her eyes. "Splintering wood. It felt like the world was ending. I ran toward the barn, but the heat knocked me back. I tried again and again. I could hear Thomas shouting, but I couldn't reach him. My dress caught fire. My hands burned on the door, but it wouldn't open. I tried, Lahi. I tried so hard, but I couldn't save him. When the townspeople came and pulled me away, all I could think, I should have died instead of him." Lahi cried. "That's so sad." "But it wasn't your fault," Elena said. "How do you know?" "Because if you'd wanted him to die, you wouldn't have burned your hands trying to save him. Bad people don't cry about hurting others. They just don't care." Elena stared at the small, wise child and felt something inside her crack. "You're right," she whispered. "Absolutely right. Can I sleep here tonight with you? What about your papa?" "He's asleep." "I checked." Elena hesitated, then lay down, pulling the thin blanket over them. Lahi curled against her, clutching her nightgown. "Miss Elena?" "Yes. Even if you have to leave, I'll remember you forever." Elena's tears fell. "And I'll remember you, sweet girl. You gave me something I thought I'd lost." "What?" "Hope." Lahi yawned. "Good. Because you gave me something, too." "What's that?" "A mama." Within minutes, Lahi was asleep, breathing soft and even. Elena held her close, staring at the ceiling. Not thinking about the councilman, the crowd, or the accusations. She thought about a little girl who had chosen to love her when the world had chosen hate, and a man who had stood in front of that crowd to defend her. Somewhere in the house, Wyatt watched from the window, listening. Every word, every confession, every comfort. He made a decision. No matter what the judge said, no matter what the town wanted, Elena Marsh wasn't leaving. Not now, not ever. He just had to figure out how to make her stay. The letter arrived 3 days later. Sheriff Brennan delivered it himself, his expression serious. He handed it to Wyatt, then tipped his hat to Elena, who stood nearby. Wyatt unfolded the paper and read silently, his jaw tightening. When he finished, he looked at Elena. "What is it?" she asked. He handed her the letter. It was from the county inspector. An official investigation had been completed. The fire was caused by bad wiring installed by a contractor who'd cut corners. It had started in the walls, spreading too fast to stop. No evidence of arson. No evidence of foul play. Elena Marsh was innocent. Officially, legally, completely innocent. The paper slipped from her fingers. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew there was no proof, but they blamed me anyway." "I'm sorry," Wyatt said. Elena looked up. "For what?" "For believing them. For treating you like you were guilty. You were protecting your daughter. That's not an excuse." He ran a hand through his hair. "I was cruel. I judged you without knowing you. And I was wrong. It doesn't matter now. The letter clears my name, but it won't bring back what I lost. No, but it means you can start over." "Where?" She gestured bitterly. "I have no money, no family, nowhere to go. In 2 days, my time here is up." Before Wyatt could respond, the barn door swung open. Lahi came running out. "Miss Elena, I finished the book." She threw herself into Elena's arms. Elena pulled her close, managing a trembling smile. "I'm so proud of you." Lahi pulled back. "Why are you crying? Are you sad?" Elena glanced at Wyatt, just a little overwhelmed. Lahi's face grew serious. "You're not leaving, are you?" Elena's throat closed. Lahi's eyes filled with tears. Wyatt, just a little overwhelmed. Lahi's face grew serious. "You're not leaving, are you?" Elena's throat closed. Lahi's eyes filled with tears. "Please don't go. I need you, Lahi. I don't want another teacher. I want you." Her voice rose. "You make me feel safe. You make me happy. You're like my mama." Elena's heart shattered. She pulled Lahi close, tears falling freely. "Oh, sweetheart. Don't leave me." Lahi sobbed. "Please. I love you." Wyatt stood frozen, watching his daughter cling to the woman he tried so hard to keep at a distance. "She's not leaving," Wyatt said. His voice firm. Both looked up at him, shocked. "What?" Elena whispered. Wyatt knelt beside them. "You're not leaving. Not unless you want to." "Wyatt, I can't just yes, you can. Teach the children live here." He paused. "Let us be the family you lost." Elena stared at him. "You don't mean that." "I do." He reached out, his hand covering hers. "I was wrong about you. I've been wrong about a lot of things, but I know this. My daughter loves you, and I don't want you to go either." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "I'm not looking for charity. This isn't charity. This is me asking you to stay because we need you. Because I need you." Lahi looked between them, eyes wide. "Does that mean Miss Elena is staying?" Wyatt smiled faintly. "If she says yes." Elena looked at the little girl in her arms, at the man kneeling with his heart in his eyes, at the ranch that had become home. "Yes," she whispered. "I'll stay." Lahi threw her arms around both of them, laughing through tears. "You're staying. You're really staying." And for the first time since the fire, Elena believed she could be happy again. Later that evening, as the sun set, Lahi stood between them, holding both their hands. "Miss Elena." "Yes, sweetheart." Lahi looked up with serious eyes. "Can I call you Mama?" Elena's breath caught. She glanced at Wyatt, who nodded. She knelt, cupping Lahi's face. "I would be honored." Lahi smiled, the first real full smile Elena had seen. "Mama," she whispered, then louder. "Mama." Elena pulled her close, her heart so full it hurt. Wyatt stood behind them, his hand resting gently on Elena's shoulder. This broken, beautiful family was exactly what they all needed to heal. 3 months later, the town gathered for the Autumn Harvest Festival. Elena stood at the edge of the crowd, Lahi's hand in hers, watching families dance and laugh under lanterns strung between the trees. She'd come because Lahi had begged. But part of her still felt the weight of their stares. The same women who'd mocked her, the same men who'd laughed. Then Wyatt appeared beside her, his hand warm on the small of her back. "Come with me," he said quietly. "Where?" "You'll see." He led her through the crowd toward the center of the festival where a wooden platform stood. The band stopped playing. Conversations faded. Everyone turned to watch. Elena's heart pounded. "Wyatt, what are you doing?" He climbed onto the platform and reached down, offering his hand. She hesitated, then took it, letting him pull her up beside him. The crowd stared. Whispers began. Wyatt's voice rang out strong and clear. "Most of you know Elena Marsh. Some of you have spoken cruel words about her. Some of you believed lies. Some of you treated her like she didn't deserve to stand among you." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. 3 months ago, she came to my ranch accused of a crime she didn't commit. I believed the worst about her. I was wrong. He turned to Elena, his eyes steady. "She taught my daughter to read. She taught her to hope again. She brought light back into a house that had been dark for too long." Elena's eyes filled with tears. Wyatt reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple gold ring. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He took Elena's hand, his voice dropping, but still loud enough for everyone to hear. "Elena Marsh, you've already become a mother to my daughter. And somewhere along the way, you became the only woman I want to spend the rest of my life with." He knelt on one knee. "Will you marry me?" Elena's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, her voice breaking. "Yes." The crowd erupted. Not in mockery this time. In cheers. Wyatt slipped the ring onto her finger and stood pulling her into his arms. Lahi scrambled onto the platform, throwing her arms around both of them. "Mama's staying forever," she shouted joyfully. Councilman Grayson stood at the back of the crowd, his face dark, but no one was looking at him anymore. They were looking at Elena Marsh, the woman they tried to destroy, the woman who'd won.